Today I want to talk about goals, specifically internal goals and external goals, and why I'm realizing that internal goals are a heck of a lot better than external goals. So first, let's define the terms. An internal goal is a goal which you can meet on your own without any external influences. So you don't have to depend on anything else, it's all on you. An external goal is exactly the opposite. What a shock. An external goal is something which has lots and lots of factors that rely on other people and their behavior or other circumstances to actually successfully meet your goal. A really good example would be teaching. I've taught voice. I'd love to teach a number of other things, dance, different things. Don't worry, I'm working on that. So for example, an external goal for teaching would be, I want my students to be successful in X, Y, and Z. So let's say vocal performances. I want my students to perform well. An internal goal would be, I want to clearly and effectively explain how to sing to my students. It's kind of subtle, because a clear, effective description of how to sing and guidance, etc., is going to result in students who can perform. So the result is subtly similar, but dramatically different when you actually analyze it. So let's look at some of the reasons that external goals are not the greatest thing. And I'm slowly realizing this and kind of having mind-blowing moments myself with this. So just in the last hour, I've been realizing how many of my goals have been external. So let's take teaching though. Let's take the example, I want to create successful students, or students who can successfully perform. Now, what's that process look like? Boiled down to its very basic, it looks like this. First, I impart information to the student. Then, that student needs to understand that information. That student needs to successfully replicate that information through practice, and they need to actually be able to understand the whole process of what they're doing. And then they have to be able to go out and sing in front of other people, which is terrifying. So, of all of the things that have to happen, though, the only thing that I have any control over whatsoever is my imparting the information to a student. Everything else, understanding it, applying it, figuring out how it works, practicing it, not just practicing it, but practicing it in a way that effectively takes their knowledge and the knowledge I've given them and puts it to use, and then actually getting in front of people and doing it live. All of that is on the student. This much is mine. And as a teacher, it's going to be really easy to become depressed or discouraged, because if my goal and my criteria for measuring success is bundled up in my students' behavior, I have no control. I could be the greatest teacher in the world and have crappy students, but if I'm focused on my crappy students' success, I'm going to feel like a shitty teacher. So I don't think that the external is a good measurement. It's also really easy to excuse poor behaviors of my own. Oh, well, surely I'm a good teacher. I'm sure I did a great job with the first part. It's just their fault. You could be a really crappy teacher and have a really great student. And they might get lucky and find that gold within all the BS you've been giving them, but that's on you. So again, you're gonna have a poor result anyways. So external's not very great, right? You can easily excuse it. Oh, well, my students just stage fright. I'm sure I'm a great teacher. Ignore all of these things I need to change about my teaching. So I don't like external goals personally because it's too easy to find an excuse. I'm hard on myself when I make excuses, but at the same time, I'm human. I make them, and I'm going to take that easy route out if I can, if I'm in a moment of weakness. So excuses. Also, directly tied to that, depression, right? Oh, this is my love, this is my joy, but my students can't get it. I no longer enjoy it because my students aren't doing it, because I'm measuring my success on their success. I'm anchored to them. I cannot fly any higher than my students can. So there we go. That's why I'm not a big fan of external criteria or external goals. What would a better goal be? One that's internal. To be the best teacher I can. To make the clearest descriptions. To best understand the feedback my students are giving me. If my goal is entirely reliant upon myself, I can have crappy students who don't want to be there, or who don't understand it, or who don't have the talent, which is highly overrated. Talent is BS. The work you put into it, hard work will beat talent every day of the week. So, there we go. That's another rant. I'll leave Tom Bilyeu to that one. Go look him up. He's amazing. So, an internal goal then takes all of this pressure from what the student does and says, that's on them. If my student doesn't want to practice, they can embarrass themselves in front of the audience that they're not prepared to sing for. I know that I've given them all the tools for success, that I've walked them through how to apply it, that I've made sure they understand each and everything I've told them before I move to the next point, and I know that I've given them pointers, and I know that I've pointed out to them, hey, you're not ready yet. If I do everything in my power and my goal, my criteria for success is based entirely on that, I'm a successful teacher. It doesn't matter what my students do with it. I mean, it does because I'm a teacher. I care. But do you see how that subtle change in focus makes the world of difference? I know I do, and it's just rocking my world. So I want to challenge you. Look at your goals. Are they based on your behavior? Or do they rely on others' behaviors? Do they rely on some external force changing? And look back at how you've felt recently. Have you been down? Have you been really depressed about your goals? Check and see. Maybe you've tied your success and your feelings of worth to something that you don't need to have it tied to. Maybe maybe you've put it in the wrong place. And if you have, that's okay. We all do it. But if you have, take that moment to say, oh, well, shit. How can I improve myself? Because if you're improving yourself, you will always grow, and you'll always have something to lean on when time gets rough. So that's a big thing I'd like to just impart to you. I hope this was helpful. Big win for me. I've managed to keep this under 8 minutes. Quick, let's hit the stop button before it goes over.